We're in conversation today with Dr. Ibrahim George, who is the founder and benefactor of the George Foundation. Dr. George, you've been in the US for the last 3 decades. What draws you to India?
Well, for a very long time, from my early professional years of my life, I wanted to do something for the children, and certainly India is the place to start because that's where I was born, though I've been living in the States for almost 30 years. So when I got the first opportunity to do something, I decided to come back for certain periods of time each year and work on children's causes. The way I got started was that I came to Bangalore and established a foundation, the George Foundation, and from there we did a number of things, including Shanti Bhavan, one of the projects.
Tell us more about the George Foundation and the various projects undertaken by it.
George Foundation is a charitable trust. It is head office is in Bangalore. It's involved in a number of projects that have to do with poor children and for causes that relate to environmental problems. The first project we started was, as I said, Shanti Bhavan, which is a boarding school for children from very poor backgrounds. Below the poverty line, the families have to be below the poverty line before we take these children. Shanti Bhavan is a boarding school designed for 300 or so children and some 40 to 45 staff members who will be living there. And we take children at the age of 4 at preschool, kindergarten, and they go on to grade 12. That is one of the projects. And the goal of the project is that we want these children to grow up to be not only very good academically, but they will cultivate in their own character values that are shared globally shared values of honesty, integrity, and so on. And we want them to be very good persons. As they grow up, they will succeed in the global marketplace. They could go on to become doctors, engineers, not just for Tamil Nadu where the school is established, but anywhere. They could be with a corporation which is in Bangalore, or maybe some multinational corporation which has its main office in New York or London, and they could work there too. So they'll be trained to fit into any global environment. And that's one project, I'm sorry. There are a number of other things that we have done. The second one, of course, is a blood screening for lead. When I first came here 4 years ago, I noticed that the pollution looked very bad. And when I did some study, I found out that lead poisoning is a very serious problem. In fact, lead poisoning is the world's largest environmental health problem affecting children. There are some 300 to 500 million children and workers in lead hazardous industries are affected in developing countries. In India alone, there are 100 million children and adults affected by lead poisoning. And we did a study, and we found that from the 22,000 samples we took of children and a few adults, that over 50% of the children living in big cities like Bangalore and Delhi and so on have elevated levels of lead that are unacceptable. And lead poisoning causes loss in IQ, and if it gets very high, you could die. And people are not aware of that, and we are on a sort of campaign to educate the government and industries, and sort of launch a movement in all the developing countries with the help of World Bank and WHO and so on, who have joined our effort to prevent lead poisoning. So that's the second project, and there are a couple of other projects just started. One is what we call EDPS 2000, which stands for Early Detection and Prevention of Diseases. Here we are trying to use the computer technology, the software, where a doctor is inside the box, doctor in the box, as we call it, where the symptoms of diseases and the conditions are all programmed into the computer, and you could take the computer to the village, and in the early stages of the disease, the rural area, rural and slum areas, the population could come and talk to a social worker who has the access to this computer on a PC. We could diagnose the disease early enough rather than wait for too long. That's the third project, and the fourth one is a fine arts museum for very talented but unknown artists from extremely poor backgrounds. We would identify them, promote their art, give them the tools, expose them to other ideas, and then finally when the art piece is done, we would display it, and at some point we will probably sell it at a much higher price than they would otherwise get it, and then a good portion of that would be given to the artists, and the rest of the money would be put back to promote other artists. So these are some of the things we have been doing.
You have a doctorate in international finance. What inspires you towards humanitarian projects?
My background in international finance has trained me to how to run companies, and some of the lessons I've learned from my experience is that in order to be a successful businessman, you have to pursue excellence, and you have to have values that are shared by your customers, and ethical conduct and professional conduct and so on. So, I wanted to carry those lessons that I've learned in my career in the United States to India, and I thought that if we do a good job with the children, they will also grow up to be good professionals, and they can achieve whatever God-given abilities they have.
Dr. Amartya Sen really has popularized this whole concept of welfare economics. Now, do you see that happening in the context of Indian reality today?
I'm afraid that in India it has there's some progress in taking care of the poor. As you very well know, 70% of India's population is in villages, and we have a number of problems, including social, problems of caste and so on. And the latest estimate is that some 300 million people are below the poverty line. This is after 50 years of experiment with so-called centralized planning and so on. I have a feeling that this type of publicly run programs, government-run programs to take care of the poor, I'm afraid it's not working for a variety of reasons, which all of us know, and that include that government is not necessarily the right source for generating businesses and so on that would employ these people, and the kind of care and services provided to poor in education and public service have been lacking. I think we have to find a different solution. Government is not necessarily the solution for anyone, including the poor, but the transition has to be smooth, that you just can't abandon people and leave it to the private sector to take care. That doesn't work. At the same time, I think that government could be a catalyst in using the NGOs, the private sector, in educating, training, giving incentives to private sector to hire and employ and train poor people. So we have to look for ways rather than just handouts and subsidies and government-run programs that have failed very dismally.
On that note, Dr. George will take leave. Thank you so much. It has been wonderful talking to you.